So I'm here in nature, and I basically just left the house and I just thought I wanted to go for a walk, and I just found this wonderful woodland place and it's just amazing. And as I'm here, I'm just giving God thanks, because I remember the first time I came to Wales. This was before I actually studied in Wales. I came to this specific town, and the reason why I'm here today is because tomorrow's my graduation and I needed a place to stay overnight because the places in where my university was booked, so this was the only place in a neighbouring town. And it's just interesting because my journey in Wales began in this town when I came to visit something around this area some years ago, and now my graduation, I'm in the same town. So I'm not seeing this as a coincidence, more as providence. So I'm so grateful as well, just that, you know, I'm gonna be able to graduate. It's been a crazy year in some parts, but I'm just so grateful to God, and you know, just let his name be praised in all that I do. So have a blessed day, and I'm just gonna enjoy this short moments I have in nature. So bye. So 2018, some months ago, I just graduated, and I was just so thankful to God about how he had led me thus far. And it was just amazing to just reflect on my life and to really see how God has been with me during my time at university. So for those who don't know, I actually became a Christian in university. So you could say, you could call yourself a tick box Christian, but I wouldn't really say I was a firm believer of Christ before I came to university, because I really didn't know Christ for myself. I really didn't understand Christianity in the way I do now. And I'm just so thankful for that experience. I'm thankful that even through being in a place which is dark, where, you know, a lot of things happened, that I accepted Christ. And just looking back, just seeing how the Lord led me was just literally amazing. So around this time, 5 years ago, I first went to one university, then later on I moved to Wales, and then in the middle of my study in Wales I went to Norway, then came back and then went to Wales. So in total it was like 3 universities, and just from the beginning to the end I really see how God really led me. And I call that season my lonely but golden years. So in 2013 I started university. At the time I was studying psychology and philosophy, so I did that for 2 years in the first one, and then things happened, and I'll put a link underneath to the blog post about why I changed universities. But then I moved to Wales, and I believe that was really God's providence. And then I studied psychology straight, so I took off the philosophy. And then I did a year abroad in Norway, and that was still with psychology. But then because my interest is health psychology, so I did a lot of health modules and other modules which weren't really health related. So that was a nice experience. And then my final year, came back to Wales and then completed it. But even just looking over the years, I'm just so thankful that I came into university not really believing. Of course I believed God exists, but I really didn't have a deep relationship with him. I was in the world, but during my university experience I came to Christ. And just looking back about how God done it was just simply amazing. So starting university, I definitely knew that I wasn't going to have the typical experience. I don't know why, but I just felt that way. I just felt that university was going to be a bit overrated. So I came with that mindset, and I've always wanted to grow whatever area that would have been. So starting university, I did go to the events, I did go to the parties, but then at a certain time I started to get convicted of many things. So actually fast forward, so starting university, I joined societies, and one of the societies I joined was the Sunday church one, and just other societies, drama and all of those others. So I began to be more interest. I began to go to the poetry for the Christian society, and then also my accommodation was close to an Adventist church, and there's a whole another story how I started to go. Before that, before coming to university, I was born and raised in the Sunday church, and I just went to different ones: Pentecostal, Catholic, Baptist mostly. Those were like the three ones that I would really go to. But prior to university as well, I kind of stopped going to church, because I remember I was slowly going down, in the sense of I was going kind of very, very regularly in my early teens, and then after a while I just started to watch things online, and from watching things online I just stopped doing it completely. And then there was one Sunday, I just remember, I think it might have been 2010 or 11, I'm not sure, or even 12, I can't remember when it was, but I just stopped going. But this day, I think it was like near the early part of the year, I just really forced myself that time to go. And then I just heard something that really didn't sit right with me. It was basically a prosperity message, which I really didn't agree with. And I just was thinking, is this how God is? And I just thought, I don't want to be, I thought in my mind that that's kind of enough. So at this time, I'm not really going regularly. I would go to events. If people invited me to their churches, I would go to that. But I really just wouldn't go there just normally. I might have gone for New Year's or something, but nothing other than that. So coming to university, I do have a desire. I am searching for a lot of things, but in my mind, I'm not really thinking that I'm going to be a Christian. So at the time, I was really interested in Rastafarianism, things like chai and all of those things, healthy living, and what else? And also I did consider Islam at one point, but then I saw, I call it a sign, but I think, I didn't go into that. So there was a lot going on. I really think I was searching, but the way God led me was through a time in university from 2013 to 14. And it's quite funny, because I don't even think, people at my university would have realised, but I just went through a really dark time at this time period. And I just knew, I didn't really know what it was. I couldn't explain it to people. There were people around me who I would explain it to, but it just wasn't, there was just nothing really that I could do. I didn't really know how to get help. And it was quite funny, because I met up with one of my friends from secondary school who I haven't really seen for 5 years, and she said to me, it was funny, because I was just going through a bad time, and then next thing I'm in the church. So it kind of all planned out that way. So after that, during that experience, what led me to Christ was, of course, I had a Bible, and I wouldn't read it regularly, but I was just drawn to, I think I was searching, and the only answer I knew was God. And I remember one night I went to a friend's house, and they had this cook thing, and I just felt, oh, that was such a relief just going there. And then I remember walking home. It was just really late at night, and I got home probably after, it was quite late at night, and I just started to write, because prior to this I was into poetry. So I began to write, and as I wrote that poem, I just felt like a release. I felt like a release, like my burdens were gone away. And also I do have that poem on YouTube just recorded, so I can put the link there. So so I just felt my burden had left away, and from that moment I could say that is when I really became a Christian, just from writing that spoken word. And I remember the next poetry night I performed it. Scripture, it means no matter where you are in life, God can help you no matter your situation. Amen. So suicidal thoughts, suicidal dreams. What would life be if I just possibly question? Why are you asking all those questions, assuming, pondering day and night? Because I am searching for the light that shines through the tunnel of darkness. And it was just such a blessing. But of course, the gradual change was different. I mean, the change was gradual, so I was still dressing the way I did. My fashion was a bit different because I usually wore more skirts than trousers. So one day I could wear a long skirt, one day it could be really short. But then I always had this Zulu necklace that I just never wanted to take off, and I think I was addicted to it. So as that happened, things happened in between here and there, but I become more regular at the Adventist church and I start going more consistently. But then the change, like the outward change, really happened in the summer, because I remember I was summer 2014. I've been always into health, but I had cacao powder, which is basically the raw form of chocolate, and I have this, and I thought it was healthy because, you know, they say it's healthy and all of this. So I'm eating it and I'm just like, why can't I sleep? I haven't been able to sleep, I think it was even 10 days or something like that. So it felt like I haven't been on drugs, but I felt like I was. I just felt that I needed it, and I just really didn't know what it was. So around this time I was studying my Bible, and I just felt to myself, I think as well, I started to fast around that time. So I fasted one day, and I remember that day, the day I fasted was the only day I was able to sleep, and I realized it must be something on my food. So I went on the internet and typed out not carob, because carob is not caffeine, cacao powder, and I find out it's very similar. It's very similar. It has a chemical that's very similar to caffeine. I think it's theobromine or something like that. So I realized, oh, this is why I can't sleep. Because even before becoming Adventist or anything, in 2008 I stopped drinking brown drinks and caffeine, tea. So this has been literally 10 years ago since I stopped drinking caffeine. And I didn't know cacao, I didn't even know chocolate was really caffeine. So around that time I stopped drinking that. But the reason why I'm saying that is because I couldn't sleep. I remember that I was watching videos, so I started to watch Dog Butcher, I can't remember. So I started to watch those videos, and I began to study my Bible, and the Lord was just so gracious. I really saw things slowly. I remember the Sabbath, God was I was just like, oh, the Sabbath, I don't really want to keep it. And then I remember, this is even before the summer, when I came back from uni, when I was in uni still, and the Lord was basically like, do you love me? And I felt, oh, if I really love him, I must keep his commands. So that was the end of it. So I kept the Sabbath. But then after that, it was the truth. I think the truth I came across was the truth about the sleep, because there's a popular view that people die and go straight to heaven, or things like that. And I just realized, wow, the Bible's amazing. I was reading, going through Genesis, and it said, from dust you will return. From dust you are made, from dust you will return. So I was like, wow, what does this mean? And from that verse I saw, wow, God is saying, we go back and sleep. No one is in heaven now. I don't know how I got it from that verse, but it was definitely the Holy Spirit. So little by little, truth was being revealed. I started to study a lot. I used to study the Sabbath school so much, and I just remember it being such a blessing just studying. And there's so much in between that which I haven't mentioned, but I just remember as well, I think as well because I was going through Genesis, and I saw as I remember one time I said to the Lord, you know, show me today what I should wear. I started to pray about my clothes, and the day I prayed about my clothes was like, wow, I have to throw everything away. And I felt convicted to basically throw away my jewelry, to be more simple in the way I dress. And I threw away my trousers, even though I didn't have that many, and my skirts as well, because you can dress immodest with a skirt that's so short. So I literally think I only had 2 to 3 modest outfits at the time, so I had to do a lot of shopping. So then was like the outward change happened, and also I think I was more consistently vegan, because even before Adventism I was being healthy, but there was still some things I hadn't let go of. So over the summer it's just like a 180 happened. I looked different. I just didn't look the same, because I always used to wear this purple lipstick as well, and that had to go, because I was really asking myself, and I just felt convicted to just be free and let it go. So it's just so interesting when I come back to university in 2014. Is it 2014? Yeah, it must have been 2014, coming back to the same uni. And it's just like, wow, who is this person? Because my dress had changed completely. I looked different. Wasn't wearing my necklace, which I would never go without. My lipstick, I just was a different person. So it was just like so quick. It just happened so quickly over the summer. And that's why, you know, looking back, I see it as providential that I couldn't sleep, because then I was just, you know, with God, studying and things like that. So that happens, and after that it just felt like, wow, just a different person. And I really felt so close to God, because even though there are people that do accept you in your new change, there was a lot of backlash and just different, like, wow, shocked, as in, oh, we don't know who you are anymore. So I guess I did change, and you know, it is hard to come with people's changes. So that was a process as well, like, wow, you know, but I'm so thankful it happened. So from then, I remember I think I was more active as well in things. So I would do Sabbath school quite a lot then, because I was just always studying it, and I was studying a lot of things at the time. But then I remember 2015, New Year's, I was always praying to God for me to have understanding, for me to have truth. And at the time, long story short, I basically came across, you know, the present truth. I came across the prophecies, and I just thought, wow, this is amazing. I just couldn't believe it. I just felt, wow, this is really what I needed at the time, because I just felt I really needed something deep, something intellectual, something that would help me to see that God was real. And I really see that studying the prophecies, you really see how God is true, because no other person in this world could really say those things that God did. And just seeing how the past reflected the present. So I was so blessed that how God was leading, that in 2015 I just came across those things, and I was just so thankful just for providence, just meeting people and beginning to understand. So looking back, I can really see how God brought that at a specific time, because I felt like if I didn't have that experience where I came across the deep truths, I probably would have been a person that got excited about Adventism and then quickly withered away. And every day I'm just praying, you know, please Lord, keep me with you and keep me with your truth, because so many things happen today. You know, you see people leave, leave and go straight back to the world, but I don't want that to be my experience, and we should never be so, you know, that, oh, that can't be us, but day by day studying God's word. So 2015 was 3 years ago, May, I think, around that time, April, coming across the truth. And then from then I really wanted to dedicate my summers for God. So 2015, I remember going to Mexico and America, and then after that just going to schools to help me, just keep the momentum going, because I said to God, I really want to use my summers. And also I just find it amazing how my Christian journey helped with my spiritual journey helped with my secular work. Because I remember in my first university, so my other modules, some of them were just not so good. I literally always late for my assignments, so most of my works would get scrap 10% straight away, because I can't even remember. I think I only handed in like 3 or even less pieces of coursework on time, and it was just not good at all. So so I was just having problems with my studies and things like that, so it wasn't going so well. Because even, let's just say I did pass and get a normal grade, and then I would get 10%, that is just like wow. And then 10%, and then something else. Something would always happen with my work at the first one. But then the second university, I think the more I became closer to Christ, the more things started to make sense, and I started to improve. And of course there were some modules which I wasn't so strong on, but I was able to balance out. So I was just so thankful that through coming to Christ, and I was able to excel at university and to also be closer to Him. Because looking back, I just thank God, because university, you have so much free time. There was always time to just be in nature, like in both of the places I went to. The first one was a city, but I would literally just stay in the field for a long time. And also when I moved to Wales, when I studied there, I would also go to the beach like every day at one point, and just always every day I went for a walk without fail. So I was having that spiritual experience, and also with my studies. But I'm also so thankful, because as I mentioned in the video that I'm posting with this in the intro, I was just so thankful that just being able to graduate, because this past year has been unexpected. Your mum passing away in your final year, but I'm just so thankful that the Lord just gave me that drive to just carry on and to persevere. And just little things like my assignments, the time period of when the funeral was, so you can imagine it probably was hard to concentrate. So I'm so thankful for the favor of God, for me being able to like for example get an extension on my work so I could complete it, because after just having that year in Norway, I just really wanted to just come back and just finish it. I didn't want to be taking another year out. So I'm just thankful that even going through that time period and being able to come out with a blessed grade. So I'm so thankful for that. And even through, as I mentioned before, not doing so well in my academics before, but then improving, like my last exam was I've just never done well in an exam, rain or shine, but I'm just so thankful that in my last exam it was probably the best I've ever done, minus statistics exam. But I'm just so grateful, just seeing how the Lord has led me, and just seeing how my Christian experience helped me to deal with things in my latter year. Because imagine if I wasn't with Christ and I went through the loss, I think it would have had a big effect on me. But because from 2013, just looking back and seeing how God really led me, and then really accepting Christ in 2014. So I'm just thankful to God for this experience. There's so much more I could have shared, and there's probably a lot that I missed out, but I just wanted to make an emphasis of how you can, be a Christian at university, and how Christ can really direct you at university. Because I know that this month and also next month is when everyone's going back. So if you make God the first, you can also pass your university. And also, there was one thing I really wanted to share, is that I had 3 weeks left of university. I think I had an exam on the 18th, maybe on the 18th. and then I can't remember, but my dissertation was basically due in, and I literally wrote, I wrote 4,000, what was it, 4,000? Probably 5,000 words in like, in like, 2 days or something like that. It was just crazy. It was only the Holy Spirit that I was able to manage that. So it was like 3 weeks was just crunch time to revise for my exam. I said I'm only revising 2 questions because I just, from analysing the lecture, I could have guessed what the questions was. So I did that, and I'm so thankful because during that time I was just claiming the Bible promises. Jesus said unto him, to him that believeth, all things are possible to him that believeth. You know, all things are possible with God. You know, let not your hand be weak, because your work will be rewarded. And I was just watching so many TED Talks about success, about perseverance, about never giving up, and just reading a lot of Spirit of Prophecy, and it just really worked. How it talks about determination, what it takes people 10 hours to do, you can do it in 5. So doing my dissertation and things like that, I was like, you know, come on, I have to go. I would write a bit, go for a walk, come back, write a bit, study a bit, and then just do it. And it was just amazing because even in those final weeks I even had a job, and literally it really showed me that you can really balance your time. I was never able to do that in my other university. It's just like I had a wall over my eyes, and it's just amazing as well because everyone's different. And for me it took a bit longer for me to like get the click and be like understand how things work. But that's the thing, your timing is not always the time for everyone. Like 5 years, I spent 5 years studying psychology, 2 years in my first university, and so basically I did a 4-year course, if you would call it that, because I did a year abroad, but then changing universities that added another year. But looking back, you know, so many people wanted to take longer, but they didn't, because typically in the UK most degrees are 3 years, but if you do placement and year abroad it's 4 years. But I know people that didn't want to do years abroad because they've just wanted to finish at a certain time with everyone. But I'm so thankful that I had that extra time, and I'm so thankful that my brain did click. So that is my experience, a summary of my university experience. But if you want to know more, feel free to ask, because there is quite a lot more. And that's the thing in life, you just have to really remember the way the Lord has led you in the past. And even right now, even though there's many things the Lord has done, I still have to have an experience today. And it also, this experience just reminds me about Daniel, because Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself. So wherever you are in the world, you can make Christ the first, and if you search for truth, the Lord will reveal it. And I'm so thankful that at university finding Christ, but also finding the truth, and it just made me feel at peace. Because even though, you know, it's not saying that as a Christian no bad is going to happen, but you have this sense of peace that, you know, whatever you go through, Christ is going to be with you. And it's just such a blessing to really see these words in action. So hope you have a blessed day, and it's my prayer that you would be a light wherever you go. Bed early which was interesting, because if I went to bed early I knew I wouldn't be, you know, doing the things that people do in the night, going clubbing and things like that. Because I also started to get convicted then when I was out, that, you know, if Christ would come and find me here, the Lord was really convicting me on a lot of things. So that was number 1, going to bed early. Number 2 was replacing what you used to do before with other things. So it doesn't have to be something religious. Like, for example, I started to volunteer more in second year. Like, for example, I did healthy cooking on a budget. So I would volunteer. I was a student ambassador, and I also used to help out in my church with the children. So I changed what I used to do before, and I replaced it with other things, because when you basically take out things, like for example turning vegan, you have to replace it with things. You can't just say, oh no, that's it, and you just don't do anything. But because if you don't replace it with things, you're more likely to go back to what you used to do. Because like for example, I remember growing up, and there were so many videos of showing how the music industry was bad and everything. So I'd watch it, get scared, and I would always come back to it, because I never replaced it with anything good, and it was just out of fear. It wasn't really out of love and things like that. Because when I really truly, I would say, started to have a relationship with Christ, I started to see what music was good and what music was bad. So always replace it with something good, and I started to replace my music with things that were of God. So activities, occupy yourself with things that you enjoy. For me, it was really health and other things. So I replaced it with that. I began to know myself more as well. So I would go and visit places and things like that. So really replace it with things, and also try and find people of like mind, people that can help you in your spiritual walk. Of course, wherever you are to be a blessing to other people, but we also need people as well to encourage us in our faith. So that may be to get more friends who are of the same faith, or friends who are really going to encourage you to walk with Christ. So yeah, so that is it. Replace what you've been doing with something good. Get people who will strengthen your faith. And also as well, writing. For me, I used to write a lot, so I was really into poetry. I don't do so much now, but I used to write quite a lot, and I used to write quite a lot of poetry. I still write now. So writing was literally my saviour in that. And also knowing who you are, because once you know who you are in Christ, you know what you are supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do. And with time, the Lord will show you what you're not supposed to do. But yes, have a blessed day and stay close to God in university. And also remember that whatever you are to do it unto God. Do it as you're doing it to God, because in that way you excel in all things. Because even in our secular work, we are still to be like Christ, doing things to the best of our ability. So God bless, and hope you enjoyed this video about some of my experiences at university.
As early as 1842, the direction given in this prophecy to write the vision and make it plain upon tables